back to Sal's Garage. Today we're going to be installing some suspension components on the E93 M3. It is over 100,000 miles, as you may know, so it's time for suspension refresh. The shocks and the struts are definitely worn, so ride comfort is compromised right now. I bought some Megan Racing coilovers for only $600 on sale, and they just came in today. So let's unbox and kind of see what it comes with. Oh, nice. Dampener adjustment extenders for the rear. We've got some, looks like end links, sway bar end links. We've got our height adjusters, wrench, and also the knobs to adjust dampening. Front struts. No camber plates. I didn't order mine with camber plates because I didn't really need to adjust that. But you could get the version with camber plates for another $150 extra. This is made by the same factory that makes BC Racing coilovers, and I actually liked the BC Racing coilovers on my 335i. They performed pretty well. They adjusted the height nicely. So if this is anything like the BC Racing coilovers on my 335, then I will be very happy. Let's take a look at the rear shocks and the spring. So here's the spring. Here's the rear shock, also height adjustable for travel, suspension travel. All right, so let's go over installing it on my E93 M3. I'll go over the process with you guys. First, you need to lift up the front end on jack stands, and then we're going to remove the wheels, and then I'll show you the front first. Starting with the front struts, all you need to do is pop this dust cover off, and this is for the EDC models. Without the EDC, you don't have this here. Pop that out. Underneath is a plug. Pull up on the plug to disconnect it. Put that aside. Now you can remove this. You need to remove 3 13mm nuts, but before you take those off, we gotta check under here because we have a few things to undo. First thing you want to do is remove the headlight leveling sensor over here on the driver's side control arm, because you don't want to just break that. So simply undo this 10mm nut right over here, and that'll remove the hand or the arm. You also need to remove this nut here that is attached to the end link, and then the other end of the end link is right over here. That's also a nut in the back of this. We need to undo some of the brake line attachments right over here with that nut. And then finally, we've got a knuckle over here to undo. And that'll allow us to take this strut out. Okay, so I got the stock end link off, and then here's the difference in size. I got the 2 13mm nuts on the top strut off, and then I have this one loosened because I don't want it to drop down yet. As far as down here, we've got the, where is it? Oh, there it is. The sway bar end link removed from there. And we've also got my spreader tool right over here to open the knuckle up so that I can slip this out of the knuckle itself. And then I've also had the brake lines removed and loosened up right here. We are ready to drop this strut down and clear the fender here so you don't scratch your paint. Take your time with this one. You might have to rotate it a little bit so that the studs, these studs, don't scratch your fender. Alright, so I've tightened the top 3 13mm nuts. I've got the bolt tightened to the knuckle. Brake line's back in place. One of the weak points I've heard of this kit is that the threads can rust, the threads for the height adjustment, so I put some anti-seize on there. I'm gonna thread it all the way up to the top and then back down. Spread out that anti-seize. And we've got this little locking washer so that it doesn't loosen over time. Okay, so to adjust the height of the front struts, you need to loosen the locking collar right here. Loosening is that way, lefty-loosey. I'm gonna lower it down, so I'm gonna go downward like this. And then that's bringing it down. Opposite if you wanna go up. Okay, so I dropped the front. This is what it looks like. I guessed pretty right. I can still fit one finger in there, but it's gonna settle once I start driving it. So some tips for the install is install the end links last, because the end links, you have to kind of adjust both sides at the same time, so might as well do it last. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Let's do the rears next. All right, so this is the rear of the car. We need to take off the spring and the shock. In order to do that, you need to remove this one right here, which is a 21 millimeter, and this one right here is an 18. And that should be able to drop the shock down along with the spring. Very important is making sure that you, right over here, you see that headlight leveling sensor. Same as the front driver side, you need to take off the 10 millimeter nut there so that you don't break that. So a pro tip with the E93 model is to open up your top halfway, just enough to get the trunk open. So once it's open right over there, stop right there. And then you can access the top of your shock tower. So as you can see here, I cut a square right over where the shock is. Otherwise, you'll have to remove all of these Lego pieces to get them out, and then to get access to that, it's gonna be a pain to put them all back together. Okay guys, so I got the rear shock out. You want to reuse the top pieces up here. So this is your bottom piece, and this is the lower shock mount for the upper part. The upper shock mount, or the top piece, is this piece here that you're going to reuse, and then this is a 22 millimeter nut. This is for the EDC shock, so the non-EDC shock is different. Looks like we'll put this piece in first, along with the lower piece, just like so. And then once this goes in, then you can put your top piece on, and then thread your nut on the top like that. Alright, this is the top pad of the lowering spring. This piece here you're not going to reuse, so make sure you take that off or else you're going to get some weird noises. Put that down or hammer it off. It's not part of the chassis, so it shouldn't look like that. It has its own top hat, so do not reuse this one. Oh yeah, one more thing. There's already a bump stop underneath here, underneath this dust boot. So don't reuse your old bump stop. So I've got the spring and the shock on. Torquing the top nut is very difficult because it wants to spin when you torque it. So what you need to do is get a pair of vice grips or channel lock pliers, and then use some rubber or something to protect this piece right here. As you can see, I didn't scratch it, just to hold it down while you're tightening up here the 22 millimeter nut. I used an impact gun to tighten it down, and that's on pretty tight now and loose. So we need to set the preload of the spring, so I'm going to use my jack to pump it up, compress the spring maybe 5 to 7 millimeters, and then adjust the shock height. I'm already got it loose in here, but I'm going to adjust the shock height to set the preload of that spring. Alright, so I am done with the driver's side rear. As you can see, the spring is on. I've set the preload so that the spring is not shaking around or knocking around in there. This side is probably the hardest. The hardest part was lining up the bolt for that shock and then also the control arm bolt right over here. Lining those two up was really difficult by yourself. If you have a second set of hands, much easier because they can move and maneuver this axle as needed to line everything up. And then I have a wood block right here to help me along with the jack to line it up by myself. But that was definitely the hardest part. Please don't run. Okay, so if you are looking for your RDC unit for tire pressure monitor delete, or if you're looking for the EDC control module, it's back here for the E93. So for the E92 and E90, the EDC box is, I believe, in the trunk, but on the E93 it's right behind the seats. So you have to remove a plastic panel here, and then you can get to it right here, which is pretty simple to do. Just push this black piece here, and then you can pull the wires out. So now I'm going to show you how to code out the EDC error, because every time you start the car you're going to get this error screen and also the triangle on there, the dash. So what I'm going to use is an Android app called Beamer Geeks Pro Tool, and this one allows you to do custom coding and all kinds of stuff, but it's a very user-friendly interface. And I'm going to use this cord that connects to the OBD2 port, connect it to my phone first. First thing I'm going to do is go to vehicle errors, shock absorber, front valves, and rear axle. Okay, what we need to do is go to vehicle and then vehicle order. Look for EDC. Let's press search. There it is. Unclick that. Now we're going to save. Saving vehicle order. Okay. Factory coding. So we're coding everything out now. Coding finished. Vehicle. Clear the codes. Alright, so just like that, there's no more EDC error and no more triangle here. That's all you need to do. So this is where we ended up with height-wise. And pretty happy with the drop so far. Not too aggressive, just enough to eliminate the wheel gap. Go around the other side. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Take care now.